You're listening to the Galaxy Poet Podcast, a new digital platform centered around art, the creative process, and creative solutions to problems facing our world. I am your host, Jordan Ferreira. Let's begin. Welcome to episode 3 of the Galaxy Poet Podcast. My guest today is the legendary lead singer, bassist, and songwriter for the band King's X. Doug is someone I've known for a long time, and I'm really proud to call him a friend, and I'm really excited to talk to him. So I want to welcome Doug Pinnick. Doug, how are you doing, man?
Howdy. Hi.
I hope
and it's true, I've known you for a long time.
Yeah. I think I met you when I was 15 and playing in Mindwalk Boulevard.
Yeah, I remember you guys doing Want to Be Loved. And when I saw it, I posted it just all over the place. It was great. I'll never forget that.
That's so sweet, man. I mean, that song, it's funny because knowing that we're going to have this conversation, I revisited your catalog, not just with King's X, but your solo work and all the records you've made. And it struck me, like, when I listened to the debut album, Out of the Silent Planet, and I kind of went up in order of the King's X discography, that is a really unique sound. Like, the combination of the funk and the blues, but also, like, there was, like, a new wave influence in that first album, particularly the track Power Love, which I felt like it almost reminded me of U2 or one of these things. And to combine all those influences, I think is so unique. Like, I wanted to ask you, what do you think was responsible for that unique collection of influences that forged the King's X sound?
I know it was the bands that we loved at that time. You know, I was a huge U2 fan from the beginning. First 2 or 3 records, maybe the first 4 records, changed the way I wrote lyrics, the way I wrote songs, everything about that. And then the Police came along before that, which I was obsessed with them. And the 90s had all these new wave bands that had these jangly guitars, but they had these great melodies with the guitars going all the time. And the Mission had the 12-string going. And I went to see the Mission one time, and they were open for Robert Plant, and they were playing through Marshalls with these Rickenbacker 12 strings. And it was the hugest thing I ever heard. Just the jangle plus the bottom was just huge. And that kind of thing just stayed with me, that vibe. And the simplicity of U2 with the one note thing, and then the bass would always do the chord changes. I just thought that was so unique, and how Bono could find a melody out of all that. That was a big deal. But at the same time, there was Metallica, Master of Puppets, who I was obsessed with that record. I was obsessed with headbanging music. So there was headbanging music and U2 wrapped up in my head, you know. And I remember The Cult came out with She Sells Sanctuary. And I remember Todd called me up and said, "Doug, turn on MTV. There's this band that's doing what we're trying to do." And I put it on, and it was, they had that thing that sounded like U2 and basically AC/DC, which were my 2 favorite bands at the time. And they grooved, they rocked, it had that thing. And I immediately put my head down, and I'm going, man, because I couldn't get that combination right. I was sitting down and writing tunes with those kind of blends in the early 80s, but I never could get the formula right. And so all those bands that I was listening to at that time really formed a lot of my influence in King's X.
Wow. Yeah, it's such a unique combination of, like, on one level you have all of the harmony, arrangement, and influence, which, like, you have this Beatles-esque element, right? And then and then on the other hand, you have this funk influence, and then you have, like, things that to me reminded me of almost like gospel music and obviously rock, you know.
We've always been the type of band that just throws whatever we feel at the time into the pot. Here's the lucky thing about us, I think, that made it a little twisted, was that our influences were so polar opposite of each other, even in our own mind, that when we created music, we had so many things that we were drawing from we didn't just listen to metal. We just didn't listen to one genre. And the reason why so many bands, I believe, aren't expressive like that is because they don't listen to enough music. They're not inspired by music that's outside their realm or their box. Like Born to Be Loved, the harmonies are cluster chords. And the Andrews sisters, when they did Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy Company B back in the 30s, I think it was, they had this way of singing harmonies that were really close to each other. And so I took that whole concept and made I Can Shout From a Rooftop How I Really Feel. It's literally from those girls who, that's the way they sang everything. They
Wow.
could sing their syllables really fast. They go, blah, 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 and they could do it so tight. But you have to check them out, the Andrews sisters. And, going to school, in grade school, where when the teachers heard that they realized I could sing and hold a tune, they were always taking me aside and having me sing, and they were playing piano. And they would always show me things. And it was show tune music in the 50s. Rock and roll had just started, so we had big band music and 50-step music and show tunes that had a different type of approach when it came to songwriting. And those were the first things that I learned, and I incorporate them in the songs that I write now. From a classical vibe to whatever it was. I mean, I've learned to mask it to make it sound my own somehow. But everything comes from somewhere. And I would say at this point in my life, it's intentional. I don't think it was intentional back in the day because I was just writing anything that I felt at the time. If I heard a new Iron Maiden song, I wrote a song that sounded like Iron Maiden. I mean, I literally used to do that.
Right.
But through it all, you start to learn as a songwriter because that's the first and foremost thing that I've ever been focused on is songwriting. I think I started writing songs before I could play bass or play really anything. I was always just writing songs in my head, and there was so many influences that I brought into my life through the years. So that's to me that's what makes a song interesting. I don't know if it makes it a hit. I don't even know if it makes it good, but at
Right.
least it ain't going to be the same old.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, said a mouthful, sorry.
No,
Time
I
for another
love it.
drink.
No,
Cheers.
I'll say one. Cheers.
Mm.
No, I love it. I think, it's interesting because I was listening to your early solo albums, and the, the like the Pound Hound, the first two releases, and then the Doug
Yeah.
Pinnick stuff, Naked, and all that stuff. So I was listening to it, and the sensibility I heard in King's X, where like the Beatles-esque harmony arrangement and the complexity of all that, I heard it in your solo music where you did everything. You played all the instruments, and I was feeling like, wow, that must be just like purely like that must be a big part of Doug's like a sensibility and aesthetic as an artist. And
Yeah.
so, is that accurate?
Yeah, I remember when Pound Hound came out, the first album, Massive Grooves. I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, it just sounds like King's X," and I thought, well, I'm just writing songs that I write just like I always write with King's X. So at that point, I went, wow, and that was a first wake up call um, to realize that I have this thing that I didn't know what it was. I didn't think it was any good because a whole lot of people wasn't clamoring for it. So, but I kept on writing the music that I loved. I look back now, and even now my music has changed. I mean, it's progressed. It's gone lower and groovier, and sometimes I think we've gotten to a point where we're almost predictable. And so I work really hard trying to find incorporating new things that have inspired me,
Yeah.
because I hate to just go try to sound like somebody else. It's like, oh, I love Meshuggah, so I'm going to write a Meshuggah riff. But Meshuggah moves me. They make me want to get up and dance. So yeah, I'm going to try to write a groove that has that kind of a vibe. Why not? That's what we do, isn't it? And
Mm.
so I make no apologies at that. And what I come up with is badass, I hope.
Yeah, it is.
And so, I like to put my own frosting on top of it, the harmonies and Doug soul and stuff. I don't know. I've been writing songs for so long. I know now what I do, and I
Right.
know. I don't. Again, I don't know if it's good or not, but I know who I am now. After like 60 years of writing songs, and so I can write a song at a drop of a hat and know that it's going to be me, and it's going to have that thing. And sometimes I hope that it just hasn't become mundane. You know, it's like, like AC/DC, for instance, one of my favorite bands in the whole world. I don't want them to change. If they wrote a song that didn't sound like the one before that, I wouldn't play the record. But on the other hand, I don't want to look back at my legacy and go, yeah, you got stuck in this one spot and this is how you sounded for the rest of your life. I want to always be known as a pioneer, going out there trying to throw some more salt on in the soup and a little bit more fuel on the fire,
Yeah.
or put it out.
No, I mean, I think I think people notice that in the recent releases you've done, whether it's the KXM stuff or the Pinnick Gales Pridgeon stuff, like
Oh.
there is first of all, like on the Pinnick Gales Pridgeon album, or the two albums, I think that's some of your finest vocal work. I think that there's this. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but like that was my take.
Thanks.
And yeah, man, and I feel like, go for it.
Oh, that was both times. Both of those records we did those records in 10 days,
Wow.
and we recorded them, wrote them, recorded them, and mixed them, and it was under unbelievable stress. And I remember smoking a joint and going in there and screaming my head off these verses and choruses one or two times, and walked away and let Mike Varney, who was producing the record, let him sort it out.
Yeah.
We were so under pressure. I just kind of it was hands off almost. I just stood outside and was trying to keep up, catch my breath. All of us were. It was pretty crazy time, those two records. I mean, they are spontaneous, and you don't go back, you don't change, you don't fix. If it's too long, too bad. If it's, if something went wrong, too bad. It's all about the vibe, and it was an experiment too, because we said, let's just play over the top everything. Eric, anytime Doug isn't singing, you're doing a lead. And man, I mean, that's what we agreed upon that. And
Yeah.
it was so funny, man, when we were doing Sunshine of Your Love, I think it was 18 or 25 bars. Eric kept playing this lead, and he goes, man, I'm tired. And Mike says, no, you got 4 more measures. And he goes,
Oh my.
okay, man, I can do it. And Eric he would pull that stuff up out of his head, and it was like, dude, Eric Gales is a machine. I've never seen anybody like him in my life.
Man, I don't know if you remember this, but I actually visited the studio because I was working at that time with Thomas.
Yes, you did, because you lived up there. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember now.
And I heard, that was the first time I'd ever heard Eric Gales. And to watch him play like that close and to like play his guitar with the setup, it was surreal, man.
Wow.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
He's a savant. It's just, you look at his hands and his fingers and what he does, and you go, how do you do that? Especially because he's left-handed, and then he plays upside down. He's right-handed. His brother's left-handed. He's got 5 or 6 brothers, and they all play guitar. One of his brothers I think one of his brothers was a big deal in Memphis, and every guitar contest that they had, he won, till to the point where they decided that they made him a judge. They wouldn't let him play anymore. He was that good. And so when King's X met Eric Gales in the band, we were playing in Memphis, and they came to see us, and they told us they had just started a band. It was Eric Gales in the band, and Eric was the kid. And so I'm listening to this band, and he was about 16, and we took them out on the road with us at that point.
Wow.
And I've known him since then, actually. But his brother is a wholly amazing guitar player in his own right. But dude, I gotta tell you a little story, and it was so wonderful. This is something guitar players should really think of. I went to see Eric play with his brother on guitar with him instead of bass. His brother used to play bass in the band, and so we never knew he could even play lead, but we knew he was a legend, put it that way.
Wow.
And so I went to see him one time, and both brothers were playing. And Eric did leads all night long like he always does. And his brother played rhythm all night long. But at the last song, him and Eric and his brother did leads back and forth. And they were doing these leads. They were going back and forth, and they're whipping each other. And all of a sudden, Eric does this long-ass lead that was out of this world. And you know what his brother did? His brother did one note for 8 measures and made it squeal, pinch. He grabbed every inch of tone and feeling out of one fucking note.
Wow.
And when he got done, it brought the house down. I've never seen anything in my life like that.
That reminds me of those
So-
stories. Wow.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that reminds me of those stories you hear of, like someone like Miles Davis, who's playing a solo with 3 or 4 notes, but he's making it. You know, he's the nuances and the like articulations are making it so expressive that it's a whole complete musical statement.
Yeah. And also he said he keeps playing it until it makes sense. So basically he's just aiming at shit until he finds a riff that sounds good, and then he'll expound on it. Then he moves on to the next one. You know, I got a story to tell you about this. This is Sly's Sly and the Family Stone, their latest bass player. He's been in the band for a good while, though. But I met him a long time ago, and we were talking about Sly one time, and he said that Miles and Sly were good friends, and Miles really loved Sly and the Family Stones, and it really inspired him. And he said Sly was up in Hollywood somewhere where he used to live, working on his new record, and Miles' Bitches Brew came out. And Miles is all proud of it, and he wanted to know what Sly felt about it. And Sly never said nothing, would not return his calls. So the boy Miles went up to Sly's house. This is the story from a guy in the band. Miles went up to Sly's house, came in with a pistol, put it to his head, and said, "When you gonna listen to my record, nigga?" and Sly said, "Well, if you put it that way, okay." He stopped what he was doing and sat down and played Bitches Brew from the beginning to end. And when it was done, he looked at him and said, "My shit's still better than yours."
Wow. Holy shit.
It's like, what do you do with those kind of stories? them some powerful egos. I guess, you got to have a powerful ego to make powerful music, and it all depends on who you are, a good guy or a bad guy. We are who we are, right?
Yeah. Do you think you need an ego to deal with the completely insane instability of the entertainment industry if you're going to be in that industry?
I used to say no all the time because I wanted to be real. I fought to be real. I want to be that guy that just does what he does because he loves him. But at the end of the day, just like Obama, why would I want to be president? I must have some kind of powerful ego to want to stand up in front of people and sing and hear their applause. Now, to say that even 5 years ago, I would be embarrassed because no, I want to be for real. But at the end of the day, we need attention. We're out of control. We need that attention. And luckily, some of us have found a way to get it. Others that don't have a miserable life and maybe sometimes destroy their lives. I mean, like, I like to talk a lot. I'm all about me. But I got people around me that want to hear about me. So luckily, I can do that.
Yeah.
But there's people that can't. And those are the people that I try to reach out to and give them what people give me. Because it's so important to be listened to. Not only to be the center of attention, but you can become the center of attention by letting everyone else be the center of attention. Wow. It's so many things about the fine art of friendship and getting along with people that it's amazing. And down to empathy, that's just what it has to be. You got to understand why a person does what he does before you can accept what they do or not accept what they do. You can't judge a person by its cover. You gotta watch the way it moves.
Yeah, man. I relate to you in that way because I feel similarly. I feel like, for years it was something like, being in the entertainment industry and trying to have success as a recording artist. It's like, no, I don't want to be one of those guys that sort of basks in in the idea of people admiring them. You know, I don't want to
Right.
be one of those guys. But at the same time, having seen some of the things, like being in a situation where suddenly you're in the industry and you're making an album, and choices are being guided by like
Yeah.
by ego and not by taste, not by passion, not by
Right.
conviction. You know, it's really confusing. And I agree with you now. I feel like if you're going to be in the entertainment industry, yeah, you need an ego.
Yeah. You do. You have to. If you don't have an ego, you won't put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And we have to. And I've been putting myself out there all my life because I'm just that kind of a kid. I mean, all my life I've been told to shut up and sit down and be quiet. All my life. I mean, and if somebody says something and I know it's not right, I say, no, that's not right. You said this right in front of everybody as a little child. I mean, my honesty and naivety was, I guess that's the word for it, was just pretty much a little out of control for a lot of people. But they didn't know that this is what would happen as this kid got older. And I like to, I try to let people know that kids, let them be who they are, and nurture them. And, you know, if your kid jumps on the piano, starts banging on it, let him. He might be the next Mozart. Don't take it off and say, stop making all this noise.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, in my life, personally, you know, I don't play piano, but every time I saw a piano, I got on it and I started making up chords that made sense to me. As a little baby, you know, at 4 or 5 years old, it made sense to play a harmony.
Yeah.
You know, but as soon as I played a couple notes and tried to find another one, get off that piano, Dougie. Stop making all that noise. You know, so, you know, it's so much that people don't understand about each other and about their kids, you know, their kids.
Yeah. It's tragic.
And but that's another thing, because being a parent must be the most horrifying thing in the whole world. It must be. I've never had kids, so I can't imagine having that responsibility for the rest of their lives, you know.
Yeah.
Whew, you know, because whatever they do, you got to take some kind of blame for it.
Yeah.
I've watched my friends go through so much, you know, with kids. So anyway, we're going way out.
That's
We're in
fine,
a
man.
pandemic. We're in a pandemic, and all we can do is sit around and think about shit.
Absolutely. And I love it all. So I mean, feel free.
Good.
Just, you know.
Good.
But yeah, it's true. I think the idea of being a parent is scary, because I think the day your first child is born, it would seem to me that your life as you know it is over.
It's over.
Right? It's a completely new chapter.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying thought, but
It
hopefully,
is.
you know, hopefully a beautiful one in the end, you know, but
That's what we always hope, because some of the parents kind of don't step up to the plate, and then there's that other thing, you know.
right. Yeah. It's tragic
That,
as well.
that makes a lot of rock stars.
Yeah.
You know, I tell you, we were talking about that, saying, you know, like, I never got rich. We never had a #1 hit. But I know all those bands, especially in the 90s, they're all my friends. I've watched them, you know, especially the Seattle band. Well, a lot of them, Seattle bands especially. I knew them before they got record deals and watched them become the greatest things in the world. But I've watched what they've had to deal with because they have money and because they're in the eyes of the world. And I thought, oh my God, if I had become that big, oh I would have had probably the bigger scandal than Trump. You know, it's like, because I'm a fucking idiot. And I would have done so much shit to get me in hot water, and just, you know, I would have ruined my career by just, you know, me being stupid. So I'm kind of glad that it didn't happen at my age now. I think about that, you know.
Do you mean that? Do you really think that there was like a self-destructive thing if you would have had?
Oh yeah,
Really?
Because back when we got signed, I was in the middle of dealing with. I was just coming to grips with an abandonment issue in my childhood, and starting to be aware, and depression started to hit me, and then all of a sudden, I got in this band, and I'm in front of everybody, and at that time, I'm going, well, believing my mother didn't love me, my dad never came to the party till I found him, and my grandmother pretty much telling me they didn't want to be bothered with me. I grew up my whole life feeling like I was on the outside and left out. So I was desperate for friends, desperate to be loved. And anybody that came along, I fell in love with them. I mean, immediately, you know, it'd take me forever to get over them. But there was like, I mean, I was a needy person to a fault where you could control me in any way you wanted to. So my neediness would have been manipulated into an amazing, crazy life. I know for a fact, you know, just my stupidity, it would have done it. You know, I would have given all my money away to family and relatives and drug addict relatives who I wouldn't give money to. They would, you know, there'd be scandal in the, you know, books. It'd be like Whitney Houston, you know, and like my dumbass would probably have cameras in the house to show who I am. And, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I know back in the day, I just didn't know what I was doing. I just thought everybody was kind and great and loved me and nobody would hurt my feelings and nobody had a hidden agenda. I literally never believed that anybody thought about anything other than, oh, that's Doug, we love him. You know, and I mean, and I was always told, don't trust people in the industry, don't trust those people at all. But they go, oh, Doug, we love you, man. We love your music, blah, 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 you know. And I just believed like any guy would, you know, I believed everything. And as it started to fall apart and I started to wake up, that's when it was stronger because I felt like, oh, you are a loser, you are an idiot, you're not loved, nobody fucking cares. And so that was my confirmation. And then I turned like 41, and right before Dogman was coming out, I was like 42 or 43, something like that. My age was, and finally started getting lines. Now look, I mean, luckily, I looked like I was 21 till I was 40. Okay, but when I turned around, a little bit after 40, I started seeing these lines, and I didn't understand it. And mentally, I didn't know what was going on. I look back now and realize it, but the lines made me think I looked like a gorilla. And all of a sudden, I got this body morph, this whatever you call that syndrome, where I'd look in the mirror and all I saw was a gorilla. And that threw me in a real bad depression. And I remember that during that time, I would change my clothes 3 or 4 times just to go to the grocery store because I was so afraid I didn't look right. And in being and even before that, the millions of pictures that have been taken of me and videos that I've seen, I know what I look like. I know everything I don't like about myself. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I talk. I don't like the way my mouth moves. I don't like my nose. You know, I keep looking and looking and looking, and I looked so fucking much that I couldn't find anything that I liked. And I went into this depression. I got down to 135 pounds, and that was around Dogman era.
Wow.
And those lyrics were, you know, Sunshine Rain was literally, I remember crying, putting the bass track down on Sunshine Rain in my demo. And I just had to stop and lay down. I would go in the bathroom or the closet. I had a walk-in closet and close the door and turn the light out and sit in the corner and just sit there for hours. And one day I said, you know, you got to get your shit together. This ain't right. And, you know, I worked my way out of it, you know, and started, it, you know, I felt like, you know, I got to live for me and do what I do and figure this all out. And through it all, you know, it's in the book. But, you know, I'm okay. And life is good. And a lot of things that I thought aren't true. You know, I found at 66 years old that my mother did not abandon me, but I was taken from her, and my great grandma wouldn't let her have me, and she never told me. You know, so little things that I hear later on in your life kind of start to heal you. The biggest healing for me was my mom died about 6-7 months ago, I guess, maybe a year ago now. And it was during the pandemic, so we had a pandemic funeral, but I can't remember how many months. But when she died, everything changed because I went to my family and there were hundreds, I can say, stories that can be and were told about my mom that were so incredible. How she was one of the greatest people I've ever known, and I didn't know her, and I never let her in because I thought she didn't want in, and so I missed it all. But from everybody else, from her death, I got to see who she is and that she loved me, and everything. all the shit went away in my head, and I'm okay. So now it's moving on, but it was a 70-year journey.
Wow. I mean, I'm glad to hear that everything is put into perspective and you have a kind of new outlook on everything and you're doing well.
I always tell people that hang in there, don't, especially suicide things. I said, dude, no, 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 no. Keep going, keep going, keep going. It's going to get better. In the future, when I was 20 and somebody said this is going to happen to you when you're 70, I'm going, you got to be kidding. I don't want to deal with that shit. But the truth of the matter is that is what it's all about.
Yeah.
You got to go through it to get to it, and it takes time. And here's the scary thing for me though is I'm 70 and I look back now and it was like yesterday. It was like, where did it all go? I'm going, fuck.
Wow.
It's almost gone. I'm literally going, wow. One day I woke up and I'm going, bam, and it is really, it's overwhelming in a bittersweet sort of way.
Yeah.
Like I look at what I've done and what I've accomplished and I go, wow, that was pretty fucking cool. Why didn't you think so when you were going through it? Because you weren't supposed to. Because if you did, you wouldn't be who you are now. You would have ate it up, you would have soaked it up, and you would have believed it all. And I thought, yeah, I would have. I would believed anything, and then I would have got to a place where the world would say, oh, what's wrong with Doug? He's too skinny. I would have probably become anorexic. It's like I'm that person. And so all of that, to say all that, I say, I'm glad I didn't get rich and famous.
Wow. Well, but I think it's funny because you are so loved and appreciated in the musician kind of sphere. Like so many guitar heroes, so many rock bands, so many people that household names, right? They cite you and they cite King's X as influences, as contemporaries, as allies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that speaks to the quality of your work. And if you listen to the King's X catalog, you can see like there's something very unique about the band, and I think that's what people kind of gravitate towards. Like there aren't many bands that sound like you.
No, and that's why even my solo stuff, as much as I want so bad that it's as good as King's X, it can never be, because King's X is there's the three of us together makes something happen that we all know that's special. And it doesn't matter how much we would fight or how much we would hate each other or how much we love each other or anything. We know that when we walk on stage, something happens, and we know we have to do it no matter what. And I think that it keeps us together as people because, we're brothers. We hate each other as much as we love each other. Trust me, we really do. But we don't bring it. We don't bring it. We leave it all at home. And all three of us live our lives separately from each other, and we're completely happy. We're all three completely different from each other. But for some reason, there's these elements that we gravitate to that gives us some kind of it makes us feel good. It really does. As soon as we walk on stage and hit that first note, it's like there's this thing happens between the three of us, and it's you can't stop. You got to do this, and it's like this feeling comes over you. I love it. I mean, even before we go on stage, if you were backstage before a King's X show, half hour before we play, all three of us are sitting there looking at the floor like we lost all of our loved ones and we wish we weren't alive. Okay, literally. Nobody hardly ever says anything, just kind of sits there. Wow. They'll come and say, hey, it's time to play. Okay, every one of us will go pee. Every one of us will go pee. And a lot of times we'll start to walk out the door and I'll go, no, let me go one more squirt.
One more.
Run back, hold everybody up for a couple more minutes. And then we'll go, okay, and we'll start walking down. I'll be ahead of them, looking back, and they're just walking slowly like they're at a funeral. And I'm like down the hallway going, what's up? Because I'm all wired up, ready to go.
Yeah.
And we walk up to the stairs and walk on stage. And then from that point on, everything changes. But before that, it's the craziest thing.
Wow.
I remember going through Motley Crue's dressing room one time right before they went on about 10 minutes. Tommy Lee was at the drum set, beating his brains out, listening to Marilyn Manson, and what was Nikki was running around doing jumping jacks, and I'm going out. What a difference, it's crazy.
Wow. Man, what do you along those same lines, do you think that trauma creates artists? Or trauma creates virtuosos?
No. Trauma helps create virtuosos, but let's take a look at maybe Celine Dion or Barbara Streisand. Now, I don't know anything about their lives, or maybe Frank Sinatra. I really, really don't, if they had a bad life or something drove them to this. But those are people who had astounding, phenomenal voices,
Right.
who sung other people's songs
Right.
and could execute vocal clarity beyond measure. That's all of us who do that, but since we have the ball and chain around us, it makes us create this Frankenstein, which seems like everybody loves. But yet, the perfection ones, the ones that seem to have had a perfect life and they've been loved and they're happy and everything's great, they open their mouth up and everybody goes, oh my God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where you can sing a song, I Will Always Love You, and somebody else wrote it, but you cry. Whitney Houston, she didn't even write that song,
Yeah.
and
Amazing
she
talent.
gave it amazing. So I can say that trauma directs you in a different way
Yeah.
to create maybe something great too. And like Ray Charles said, if everybody loves it, it's a genius. If people don't, then it's stupid. So that's the fine line. It doesn't matter anyway at the end of the day,
Wow.
as long
like
as
that.
you liked it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that way of public interaction,
Yeah.
quantifying whether it's genius or not. That's a very crazy idea, but it's true. It really is true.
Yeah. Yeah, when someone comes up and says, man, he plays better than Jimi Hendrix, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Excuse me. I mean, come on. Nobody can play better than the person who did it.
Yeah.
That's physically impossible. You are making your own rendition of it. It's not
Yeah.
better, it's just you.
Yeah.
Oh God, it drives me crazy when someone says they're better than the original.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Because they don't even take into account like the context of that time, for example, and what was going on musically. And
Yeah.
like there was nothing in pop culture like Jimi Hendrix at that time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there was John McLaughlin. He was playing doing great things with Mahavishnu Orchestra at that time. But Jimi Hendrix, it wasn't just the music. It was him. It was his attitudes.
him.
Yeah.
And his songwriting.
His
When I
songwriting.
went on, I did 2 tours at the Hendrix experience, which was, I think, probably changed my life in so many ways I can't even count. And this is a couple years ago. But me and Joe Satriani and Kenny Aronoff, we put, I think it was 5 or 6 songs together. And they were Hendrix songs that I can play in my sleep, number one. And number two, they're the ones that I could sound just like him. So, and they were obscure. So we did like If 6 Was 9, Third Stone from the Sun. We did the whole jam. We studied that stuff. Satriani came out and did his Hendrix. He did no Satriani. It was like, and Kenny overplayed everything to the point where I'd lose the one sometimes, exactly like Hendrix live. I mean, sometimes I listen to Hendrix live and listen to us and go, wow, that kind of, we got him. Because we wanted to get the essence of Jimi Hendrix. But where I'm going with this is that I had to really sit down and learn the songs nuance and note for note. Songs that I already knew.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I was playing so many things wrong. Like Voodoo Child, bass player doesn't play the riff. He plays Bo Diddley on the bass while Jimmy's going dun 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 dun. Bass player's going dun 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 dun. I didn't realize that. So I mean, everything we painstakingly broke it down. And what I learned was what a genius songwriter he was. I mean, outside the box so far, and made it a hit song. He was so far. I mean, like I Don't Live Today is a verse and a chorus and a lead in a chorus. And it's so and you go through a whole journey. Or you know what I'm saying? It's like the
Yes.
way he wrote songs, they were so abstract, but they were so meaningful and so in your face and so far away. It was like he encompassed everything. And I think it was because of who he was too, you know.
Yeah.
Trauma and all, like we were talking about earlier when I said no trauma. But you know, who knows? Jimi Hendrix. God, I still learn more about him every day. I did a Hendrix tribute record, and Joe at Rat Pack Records said, "Hey Doug, why don't you do a Hendrix record? Because I need to make some money." He said, "I'll give you a little advance and you can do this." I go, "Great." And so I thought, well, what do I do? Like everybody else, just do my rendition of Hendrix, or let's just do it. Try to do it exactly like Jimi Hendrix. And so I went in the studio with Michael Parnan, and we literally listened to the songs of the records and tried to get every nuance, every sound, every tone, every panning, everything exactly the same way, just for the heck of it. And I named it often duplicate. No, what is it? Often duplicated but never imitated. Often imitated but never duplicated.
Brilliant.
And and through that also I learned so many things because I played guitar on that record, and I wasn't gonna play guitar. I had Tracy Singleton play lead guitar on it because he knows Hendrix leads backwards and forwards, but I played rhythm on it, and so I had to learn his rhythm parts, which were basically all the rhythm parts that I always use in King's X, and that's why I always used to wonder why people say, "Doug, you sound like King's X. I mean, you sound like Jimi Hendrix," and I'm going, "Oh wow." There's 3 or 4 chords that we all in soul bands play, and Jimmy played them,
Yeah.
and I learned those same chords. And so when people say, "Oh, you sound like Hendrix," so I'm going, "Well, yeah, but you know that's what we played back then. Everybody, you know, everything I heard had that vibe." And Jimmy just turned it on 12. I mean, Jimmy was doing I Can Tina Turner, he was doing Little Richard, he was doing all that stuff, but he had it on 12, and he had acid behind his head. So he had some noises going on, and he had a wow and a fuzz tone, and it was a new era. And
Yeah.
he took that thing to another whole nother dimension that no one has ever been to go through since, just like the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know, there's just a few groups, Led Zeppelin too. You know, here's the thing too, and I hate to say it this way. Maybe it's a good thing or not. But I was born in 1950, so rock and roll was born around the time I was born, and I'm 70 now, and I've watched it go through a whole lot. But you know, I've come to realize is it's got to die too, like everything else. It's not going to live on forever, and I'm watching it change in so many ways. Like there's no more rock stars. There's the Led Zeppelins and the Beatles and the bands that just changed everything. They're gone. You
Yeah.
know, we have a whole different type of thing going to a whole different type of youth, and our thing is on its way out. And so I just go, wow, it was a good run. And you know, like classical music, like anything, I think it's kind of over in some ways. But whatever is new that has come to replace it has taken its place. And those who who want to open their ears and minds up can step out there and go for it, because there's some great amazing music and art going on out there that I just don't understand and can't feel it because I never lived it with them. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So like when I was, a kid and I played rock music, like I would play Allman Brothers to my uncle and aunt and cousins that were way older than me who loved blues and listened to Muddy Waters and stuff, and they go, "That ain't blues, Dougie, and that's just crap." And and here I am now, as old as I am, I can't look at a teenager and go, whatever that is you're listening to, that ain't good. I gotta go, that's your expression, and man, go for it, because that's what we did,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's like I've often thought about this with the context of what you said. Like when Jimi Hendrix came out, I think the reason he was so radical and revolutionary is the electric guitar was new. It was
Yeah.
relatively new.
Hmm.
So you hear a wah-wah for the first time, you hear a Marshall stack for the first time, you see someone like Jimi Hendrix for the first time, and you're like, everything hitting you all at once,
Yeah.
it's gonna cause a revolution, you know?
Hmm.
And I feel like, yeah, I feel like now, what's happening is that revolution is happening technologically. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
producers, DJs, it's, that kind of culture.
It is.
I wonder, yeah, well, sorry, go ahead.
It is. My godson, sent me one of his favorite musicians, and it's like, my God, the kid's got tattoos all over him. He's got upside down earrings and crosses all over him. He's tattooed all over the place. And I played a song, and it was the most depressing stuff I ever heard in my life about just not even wanting to be alive. And he died of heroin overdose. And this is he's 14, my godson's favorite band. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we listened to Black Sabbath.
Right?
So okay, I'm not going to be alarmed by this, but I just kind of go, whoa, I'm going to be kind of keep your ears open. You just, jeez. But we got to let there's another world out there. I guess that's my point. There's another world out there that we don't know about that's flourishing quite well without us, and working without our complaints.
Right. What do I'm curious about this too, and to hear your take on it, because with this whole situation with the COVID lockdown and sort of the quarantine and the fact that a vaccine for the public is not going to be available maybe for another 6 months, right? Do you think that is providing an opportunity for like a generation of outcasts and rebels and troubadours now to kind of come up with something that is this generation's version of a Bob Dylan or Joni Mitchell? Do you think that's possible?
I think that it's happening, but not musically. I
Interesting.
think because I've been watching some things on YouTube, which everything is true on YouTube, but there's a group of young genius people who are biotechnical experimenting against the law. Learning how to grow limbs and things on you and do things that are against the law at this point. I saw this thing where they go, there's a group of people that are making these mongoloid kind of, but they're trying to push mankind. They're the new generation. It's not the Beatles anymore. It's a cyber thing that they're go through, and it kind of freaked me out. They were showing this one guy that had an ear on his arm, and he said, "Don't try this at home, folks." He said, "This is what," and they started talking about it. I'm going, "Is this true or not?" Because you don't know what's true anymore. Are you kidding me? I mean, I don't know what's true anymore. After I learned about AI and watched that movie, I forgot what the name of the movie is. I hate it when I forget names, but it's about how AI, basically algorithms, they just figure out what we want, what we're doing, why we're doing it. They're listening to everything that we do. So
Yeah.
why is it that, like a friend of mine just texted me today, and it said his daughter mentioned to him about a rodeo, and he said later on that day he got all these ads about rodeos.
Yeah.
I'm going, there you go. It's like I don't know what to believe. If I watch Tucker Carlson, all of a sudden I get all these Trump lovers, and then if I pull up CNN, I get all these haters, and then I get all these things in the middle that sometimes I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah.
I'm going, well, I don't know anymore. Because you know what I'm saying? It's gotten to the point where it's out of control, and it's not going to get better. In politics and in the world in general, people like Facebook and other companies have monopolized countries to communicate with each other inside their countries to break them down. We all know that. I mean, they said they destabilized the whole country because they gave iTunes or iPhones gave everybody iTunes and Facebook on their iPhones. And when they bought them, it was the Indonesian country, I think. When they bought them all, they gave them to them and set them up when they got their iPhone. and 5 years later, there's a revolution and a genocide happening. And so they proved that whatever you're interested in, you'll get more and more of it. And as long as you keep getting more, the more you're going to believe it. And why are we all divided? Every one of us is getting a different set of information. Every last one of us is getting a different set of information leaning to whatever we're searching for. And this is everybody that's on the internet now. And it's not going to change because all of the commercials in between all of that bullshit is where they buy and sell. You see that ad and then you go to that ad and you buy something. So humans are basically the people selling big company products. I mean, Amazon. Why is it that, I went to Amazon a week ago and I got something up there that I was going to buy and I haven't bought it. Today I said, your chart is closed. You should come back. Here's some items that we thought you'd like. And they start lining the things up of things that are close to what I'd want.
Yeah.
I'm going, oh my God. And what gets me more than anything is even that information is out there and we know it. It is our life now. We ain't going to change.
No.
I always tell people, if you don't like what Walmart's doing, then boycott Walmart. If you got 20 million people to boycott Walmart, they will give you what you want.
Right.
And the thing about America is keep us divided and control us, and then we can do what we want. As soon as America gets on the same page, all hell will break loose, and they will do everything in their power to not allow that to happen. And
Wow.
that's where we're at right now.
I think you're right, man, because I don't know how you feel about the current political landscape, but I think just for me, in my opinion, like seeing someone like Bernie Sanders in the beginning have like a legitimate shot at winning the nomination, and then seeing the way that corporations and the DNC and like they all conspire to guarantee like never someone like Bernie,
Right. Yeah, TV, they wouldn't cover him,
They wouldn't. No.
And as a result, who won? Because he got all the attention.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's a genius at. Oh my God, I admire him from that aspect. That man has been the number one thing on our minds for the last 4 years, and we're exhausted. We're exhausted.
Yeah.
Good or bad, we're all exhausted. The ones who love him and the ones who hate him, we're all exhausted.
Yeah.
Whew. And it ain't over. It's just begun.
Yeah. I agree. And
And then we go back to the old way, which is everybody just hating each other because they hate each other. I'm just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Say we bring it down from 12 to 10.
Yeah. Wow.
And the corporations still make the money. I wish I could get all the corporations together and convince them if they took all of their resources and put it into making everyone happy and making them pay for it, they'd make way more money.
Wow. What a beautiful
I go, why
idea.
not? Wouldn't that work? If everybody is got what they want to, you for what you want, you will work your ass off for. Everybody will, because we're made to work. We love to feel proud of what we've done. So make us happy, and we will work for you forever. But maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I wouldn't run for president. I don't want that pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
Shoot, I wouldn't even get there by the time they threw all the scandals out on me. Shoot. Are you kidding?
I think you could do it. But yeah, was the film that you saw on AI, was that The Social Dilemma? Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay.
I wish everybody would watch it. I really, really do.
Me too.
Really do.
That scared me, that movie.
It did me too. I didn't look at my phone for a couple days.
Me neither. I didn't go online for a few days.
Wow, yeah. But one night I was sleeping, and all of a sudden, my phone said, "Please say that again. I didn't understand what you said." And I looked over, and I'm going, I don't have Siri on, and my phone is off. You know, I mean, it wasn't turned off, but it was just, you know, and I thought, man, Siri, that thing, it's on even when you turn it off. And like Edward Snowden said, he said, oh, what did he say? He said the only place they can't monitor you is in a microwave. He said, but other than that, he said they're listening to everything. He says everything, and it's not because for the government or for espionage, it's for selling to the
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And the thing about that, again, a thing about that computer is it has no morals. So whatever it, you know, it doesn't care.
Yeah. There's no human nature. There's no
Nope.
empathy. There's no. It's almost like a sociopathic,
Yeah.
capitalist kind of
I,
creation.
I wonder if that's the beast that the Bible talks about.
Wow. What do you think? What do you think about that? Could it be?
Well, here's the way I look at things, and people could laugh at me all day long, but I'm not a Bible believer. Jesus Christ is not my Savior, but I do believe that people can see into the future because people that aren't Christian have seen into the future and have predicted. So I just believe that the Bible, all that stuff that they talk about happening, I believe either happened or it's going to happen. And I know a lot of it growing up as a child, as a Christian. Revelation was my favorite book, and I read it over and over and over again. And this is the scary thing: is at this time period right now, if you look at Matthew 25, and Jesus says these things will happen before the coming of Christ, but these are only the beginning of the birth pangs. And everything that he said is going to happen is happening right now. The angel was told to take the bowl and throw it into the ocean. And a third of the ocean, the fish died. Okay? Or, oh no, the fish you couldn't eat. And then I thought about Fukushima, the bowl. I'm going, whoa, what is this? Or, I mean, I go down the list of things the Bible says is going to happen that was written 6,000 years ago, and I look around going, are you kidding me? You know, the mark of the beast, it says that no man can buy or sell without this mark. And people always thought it was a tattoo or whatever, but how many different scenarios now have you heard about putting something on us so that we can be identified? So when you look at the Old Testament or the New Testament and all, what was it, Old Testament? I can't remember now. But all the stuff that they talked about, just think about that they had a different type of living. They didn't know anything about the technology we have now. There's a thing that says, like, when the Antichrist, there's a guy that's going to supposedly pop up, and he's going to be the shit, and the whole world is going to pretty much follow him. And this hasn't happened yet, but this is supposed to happen. He's going to bring the whole world out of chaos, and everybody's going to go, "You the man." Okay, the Bible says this, and then it says all of a sudden we're going to find out that he ain't who he is, who we think he is, and it says that someone will try to kill him, and he will be shot dead in the street, and the world will see him come back to life again. And I used to read that scripture back in the 50s and 60s and 70s and go, how's that going to happen? Now I go, oh,
Wow.
as soon as everybody's linked up, which is what they're heading for, the world links together, we will see it real time. So, you know, and people can look at me and go, oh man, whatever. They can make up their own stuff. But, you know, the way I look at life in general is that you pile up enough information until you have enough facts that help you to steer yourself to something close to the truth.
Right.
If you don't do that, then you're stupid when someone else has been that far and understands more than you do, and you can look at them and go, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, when you don't even know because you ain't been there.
Right.
That's what's called folly that I write about in songs, because wisdom only comes with going through something. Somebody in their 20s can say he's wise, but he don't know shit until he's been through it.
Right.
And you can't understand something till you've been through it. So, and you can't understand that till you've been through it.
Yeah.
Life is a dichotomy, isn't it?
Absolutely. And how interesting to hear, like, to hear that interpretation of religious text in contemporary times, and see how it could
Mm.
be like, it could be lived, it could be achieved,
Mm.
it could happen.
I believe that even though there's one other scripture that says Jesus will split the sky open and he'll come through with his angels riding a white horse. Now I used to go, now, okay, sky's going to split open, this guy's going to come through on a horse. Okay, but then I thought, now I'm learning in physics and in the CERN and all that stuff, they're opening wormholes up and literally they can put things in them or out of them.
Yes.
And I'm going, we've even got this going around. Or like when what was it, Ezekiel went up into the wheel in the center of a wheel. And they said the angel showed him the whole of the earth. Well, who knew the earth was round back then? So it was a spaceship, and the whole Bible is basically alien. I mean, if you look at it in any other way, it's a myth and you just faith. When people talk about faith, I just believe because I believe.
Right.
But if you look at the Bible, it's an alien encounter that is still going on right down to this day. You know, and it's not wrong or right. It's just what it is. That's why I look at it. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as you lived a great, great life and did what you love to do and loved the world. That's why I look at things. Oh, God,
It's
I must be
beautiful, man.
drinking too much and I'm babbling.
No, I love it. It's beautiful, man. That was
Good.
beautifully
Yeah.
said.
Thanks.
I wanna, springing off that, I wanna
Mm-hmm.
mention the last time, or, a few years ago, we had a lunch. I think it was myself, you, and Tommy Baldwin, the guitar player.
Yeah,
Who,
yeah.
shout
I
out to
remember that.
Tommy. Yeah, he's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, amazing guitar player. But in this lunch, you were mentioning, like, you were bringing up some of these things, and you were talking about aliens and your view on aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you had an alien abduction story from when you were 3 years
Yeah.
old. Can you tell that
Yeah.
story?
Yeah. I remember I was in my bed sleeping, and I was three. I remember three things when I was a little kid. One was my grandfather died. I was 1.5, and I remember crawling the floor looking for him.
Wow.
And I remember the couch color of the room and everything. And I mentioned it to my mom later on in my life, and she told me that was when my grandpa died, and we had the funeral in the house. That was 1951 or maybe 52. Um, and the other thing was I was three, and I remember that because my mother had left when I was three, and I remember after being abducted, I was in my mom's lap in the living room, and it was dark outside, and she was getting ready to go to work. She used to go to work at this factory, and she left around 6 in the morning. And I think that's the last probably time I might have seen her. I don't remember anything after that. But I remember that somebody came to my bed. I thought it was Jesus for some reason because I guess I've been going to church even at 3 years old. I knew who Jesus was.
Right.
And this guy comes in and he had long blonde hair and a robe and sandals that went up his leg. And a beard. And so he took my hand. I wasn't scared at all. And I got up and I walked out. And it was dark in the house. I got out outside of the back door and I opened the door up. He opened the door up and it was bright. And I remember we were going up. I felt like we were walking up. I don't know what was going on, but it was really bright. And the only thing I could think of was, wow, it seems like the sun is so bright. That's all I could think of. It's so bright. And that's the last thing I remember. And then I'm in my mom's lap crying. And that was it. I don't know what happened. But it always haunted me because growing up as a Christian in the whole Jesus scenario, I thought it was Jesus, and I thought maybe I died, I was sick, something happened, he took me to heaven, and I came back, whatever. I don't know, but I always wondered why I was afraid. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one important thing. As we were going up, all of a sudden I had a panic attack and I went, no, I don't want to do this. I looked back and saw the house way down there and I got scared and I started pulling my hand out of his hand as hard as I could. And the next thing I remember, I was in my mom's lap. So I don't know. I always thought maybe I got away and got home. That's what I always thought. I never thought of anything else until I started learning about alien abductions. And then I started questioning, going, well, why was I afraid to go with Jesus? Why would I be afraid? It's Jesus, you know?
Right.
And so that always haunted me all my life. In fact, even as a Christian, it made me wonder, am I really supposed to be a Christian even? It really fucked with me.
Wow.
But I remember I was watching Ancient Aliens. No, it was something else on YouTube. And they were talking about the four aliens that all people that had alien encounters that they've talked about or documented, the four aliens that that we have in common, and they showed all four of them. And the one that I saw was called the Nord. He had long blonde hair, blue eyes, a beard. He had a robe. He had a gold belt, and he had those fucking sandals that went up his leg. And I looked up and I went, oh fuck, I was abducted. And that's when I realized, oh. But then about maybe 10 years later, I started studying about the Anunnaki and all that, and seeing the hieroglyphics. That's what they look like. The alien gods. They had long hair. They had these belts and they had these robes. And I mean, in the hieroglyphics, they're dressed like that. So at that point, I'm going, well, I don't know what happened, and I can't, like I ain't gonna die for believe in anything. You tell me die for what you just said, and I'm going, no, it could be just crazy. But but in my life, it's helped me have peace and make sense. Because somebody said one time, he says, well, if Doug believes it, I believe he believes it. And I'm going, thanks, but that doesn't, so just don't say nothing.
That is funny.
That's just like saying, yeah, he's stupid, but if he believes it, he believes it.
I mean, kind of.
Don't do that. Just, because did it happen to you? Did you go through this? People, the Bible says those who are without sin throw the first stone. And, I've had to learn to stop throwing them damn stones, and I think we all need to.
I agree, man.
Because we all got sin, some of the... I've had friends in my life that I would consider pathological liars who I wouldn't trust as far as I throw them. But when I love someone and I bond with them, I'll never forsake them. I'll be there for them if they need me. But those are the people that I quietly exit from without hurting their feelings or acting like I'm far away. It's like a brother or sister who you just don't see, but you love each other, and when you're together, this beautiful thing happens. I have to do that to some people who are self-destructive. Others, I've tried to help them see who they are, as I've been learning to see who I am, because I'm just as psychotic as most. You can push my button and it's just bullshit, and I took it all wrong. I mean, I'm the first to admit I take things wrong in a second. But I've learned to back up and listen, and I've tried to help other people. And some people have learned, and I've watched that the drama in their lives and other things get better. I mean, go away and things like that, because they realize that they're causing the drama, not the other person.
Right.
But those who say, yeah, I understand, and then you see them continually do that without never accepting the fact that they had any part in any wrongdoing in whatever it is that drama is, then I go, I'm done with you. I'm not going to waste my energy on you. Energy is too important. Quick story. This shaman was watching two people. This is a long time ago. An Indian guy these two people were up on a hill and they were arguing, and the moon was shining, and this shaman could see their energy. He said both of them had this humongous aura around them that was just so beautiful. He said it was just this spectacular. And he said they started arguing. And he says the one aura got bigger and bigger. And by the time they got done arguing, the one who lost the argument, his aura was very small and it walked away. And the other guy had all the aura. And I thought to myself, we can't allow people to do that to us. Wow. And you can't just stand there and go, I'm not going to listen. You gotta learn to understand that this ain't about you. Whatever they're throwing at you, it's really not about you. It's about whatever it is that they are going through, and 90% of it is venting it at you, but
Yeah.
it's not you. And as long as you can say, this isn't me, then they can't take your aura. But as soon as you start believing that it is your fault, they're
Yes.
sucking it out, you know. I mean,
Yes.
life is so crazy because there's so much going on metaphysically and and where we can't see it spiritually, and that we can't contain it and we can't understand it. All we can do is talk about it and hopefully learn from it, you know, as long as we learn from it, not legislate it or turn it into a religion, you
Yeah.
know, because I've experienced a lot of spiritual things, and as a Christian, I attributed it to God and the Holy Spirit. But now, as I don't, as a non-believer, I see a lot of other things. I mean, when you walk into an energy that you feel a panic attack, and you walk back, and you're okay again, and you walk an inch into it, and all of a sudden you're having a panic, and you're just in a room, and
Right.
I'm going, so what is that?
Yeah.
And you know, just there's a lot of things going on that we are unaware of, and for us to think we know it all is is the reason why we're so stupid, if you want to put it that way and bluntly, you know.
Yeah.
And I hope, and I'm just as stupid as everybody else. Don't get me wrong. I just, you know, I want to learn. I want to learn more about life before I die, so that I can understand what this whole thing was.
Yeah.
You
It's-
know, it ain't about what happens afterwards. You know, it's like, nobody knows what happens afterwards. So why should I worry about that? You know, why should I waste my time?
yeah. And I think it's such an amazing story because I know, in the '80s when King's X, was putting out albums like Faith, Hope, Love,
Oh yeah,
the perception. I'm not sure where things stood like within the context of the band, but like the perception was that the band was a Christian rock band.
yeah.
And there was a moment where suddenly that perception, was no longer the case, and I think the career suffered for it. And I
Yeah.
feel like, what was that like? I mean, that must have been
Well, the thing was, is when we got together, we were full blown Christians. Ty and
okay.
Jerry were going to Christian college. I met Jerry playing with Phil Keaggy, who was one of the big name Christian musicians at the time. I was full blown Christian, had a Christian band before I left Joliet. Wrote all the songs. We preached, told people to get saved. I mean, we did the whole. We were an evangelical band. But when I was playing with Phil Keaggy, we played a festival with 5 or 6 or 7 of the biggest Christian bands in the universe. Basically, it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Christian capital of the world, in an arena of 60,000 people, and every famous Christian artist that was selling millions to Christians was there. And I played with Phil, and I went thinking, because as a Christian, I always thought everybody was perfect. Nobody cussed, nobody drank, nobody, because I was told, don't do this, don't do that all my life. This is what a Christian is. They pray, they get together, they hold hands, and they thank God, and the whole thing. I got behind the stage at this festival, and these folks was partying, drinking, cussing, and then going out talking about Jesus. And I thought to myself, well, if this is the way it is, I might as well just go play secular music and still be a Christian, but at least I know people out in the world are going to shit on me anyway, so go try to be a rock star out there, and fuck this. This is hypocrite.
Yeah.
Because hypocrisy is the thing I probably hate the most, is
Agreed.
being somebody that you're not,
Agreed.
faking it. That's why I have very little respect for a lot of pastors. A lot of pastors, I know that they love God and they believe what they're doing, and I believe them too. And I hope I'm wrong and they're right. But there's a lot of pastors who are just fucking crooks. They're rock stars. They're good looking. They know how to move. They know how to wiggle, and they know how to get the women to watch them.
Yeah.
And I mean, the biggest churches are rock star pastors. They really are. It ain't because they just stood up there and preached the word of God. They brought it.
Yes.
They brought it like any rock star would. And so, and when I watch those congregations, I just look at them and go, okay, enjoy this. But this man up here, I have no respect for him, because he's a liar and a hypocrite.
Yes.
If he stood up there and said, like the pastor that says, God's going to give me a Cadillac, because I go, yeah, tell your people that and let them give you the money because you were honest with them. Take their money. But don't give me this humble bullshit and then, make everybody else give your hard-earned money for the poor, but then the pastor takes all the money, and buys, does what he wants to, while that person who's given their last 10% to the church can't pay their rent. And he's saying, trust in God. It just gets so crazy. But anyway,
Yes.
pull me aside, Douglas, Douglas, Douglas. The other
No, I
side
love
says
it,
to
man.
the,
I
the,
love
the
it.
other side. The other side says to me, no, that's not all of them, Doug. There's a lot
Right.
of good Christians. I got to say that you're right, because I've been accused of being a hater of Christians, and it's just because I just talked about the bad sides. There's a lot of good things. My mom was a Christian, and I look up in the sky right now and say she's up there with Jesus singing in the choir, and
Wow.
that gives me comfort. And
Yeah.
as for me, I don't know, but that's what she believed, and it gives me comfort. you
Yeah.
know. So when I met Ty and Jerry, I said to them, I said, dude, I believe God wants us to start a secular band. We're all Christians. All we got to do is write music about our faith or about whatever we want to. We're free to do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And if someone asks if we're Christian, we go, yeah, and this is how you come to Jesus. God so loved the world, blah, blah, blah. You know? And I said, we don't have to go out and say we're Christians. We don't have to say we're a Christian band or anything. Let's not be a part of that world. And that's why I said we're not a Christian band, because I knew that as soon as I said we were a Christian band, we would have been a part of that world. And I wouldn't be able to say fuck, and I wouldn't be able to drink wine, and I wouldn't be able to do those things. Even though I didn't do those things at the time,
Sure.
something in the back of my mind told me, but you gotta be, you're going to be on a pedestal now to be like those fake people. And
Right.
Ty and Jerry felt the same way. And so they both said to me, well, I'm going to pray about it. They both said that to me. Literally, a couple
Wow.
days later, they both said, we believe God wants us to do this. And I go,
Wow.
okay, the band's called The Edge. And it started at that point, and we've been doing it ever since.
Wow.
Changed their name a few times. But the Christian thing, what happened in that aspect was when Jerry and I played with Phil Keaggy in the underground, Christian rock underground, which is there's, like the metal underground, like everybody has an underground. There was this metal underground where these kids loved metal, but they couldn't listen to metal. So any Christian band, no matter how good or bad, they bought that record. Well, they heard about me and Jerry playing with Phil Keaggy, and then they heard there's this new band that they heard about, and all of a sudden this word kind of went in the underground about it. And as a result of it, a Christian label called me up and said, are you tired of serving the devil, playing bars, and want to play for Jesus? And I go, what are you talking about? His name was Wayne Donahue of Star Song Records. And then he says, no, we're just laughing. He said, no, we're just making fun of you. He said, but we have a Christian artist down here and we need a band to back him up. You want to come down here and be that band? And we go, how much? Because we were basically playing clubs, making $20 to $30 a week, and Jerry had 2 kids. And
Wow.
he had a part-time job. And Ty, well, everybody lived in my house. I had a 2-bedroom house, a living room, and a kitchen, and everybody but Jerry and his wife and kid lived in my house with me. Road crew manager. They were all going to college. I wasn't.
Wow.
But anyway, so we all moved to Texas, and then we did the Morgan Choir thing. So we got fired basically because we did a tour with Morgan, and we rocked the kids, the youth groups, so hard that the churches said you can't bring them back. They're too secular. They're too in the flesh, they called us. And
Wow.
so we couldn't come back. And so at that point, record company says, well, we don't know what to do with you. So we met Sam Taylor, who was working with, had just left ZZ Top. And as we know, Sam Taylor and King's X and that whole story. But at that point, we were still Christians. And Sam was a Christian. So Sam pushed the Christian thing more than we did. Now, I was writing lyrics thinking that they were more abstract, like Bono, because Bono could talk about his faith, but he got away with it.
Yeah.
I said, well, I can do that, But I look back now and go, well, I was trying to be evasive, but then trying to say, yeah, I do believe. What is this that gives me hope? I mean, I was questioning God.
Right.
The power of love. Love. It has to do with God. And all that stuff. So I had a lot of Christian overtones. Um, but in the regular world, they thought we were Christian, and the Christians didn't know if we were Christian. So a lot of my Christian friends said that a lot of youth groups had a lot of arguments about King's X. Were we Christian or not? And finally, I remember again, like I said before, doing stupid things. Well, I did stupid things. Okay, we leave Atlantic and we're on Metal Blade Records, and we put a record out, and all of a sudden, a Christian magazine comes and wants to do an article with me about being gay. Now, I hadn't even come out yet. I don't even know how it happened, but I came out in a Christian magazine in front of the whole church. At that point, they banned all our records from Christian music stores, and I was basically been prayed for or blacklisted. And the funny thing about it was the record company, Metal Blade, says, Doug, when you do something like that, please let us know. I had no. See, that's the thing. That's the way I was. I didn't realize um, what I was doing. No one could reel me in. I wouldn't listen to anybody. I just would fight with everybody because I wanted my way. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I didn't care what anybody told me.
Yeah.
And in my ignorance, even the Rolling Stone interview that kind of screwed us. We were in Rolling Stone. Our only time they reviewed Gretchen, gave us 4.5 stars, which they gave
Nice.
everybody that they liked. At the end, it was the greatest review, and at the end it said, "Not bad if you don't mind beat over the head with loaves of bread and fish."
Oh my God, they said that in the
and
view.
at that point, everything they said was null because in 1989, to even be a Christian was not. It was just not cool in the regular world.
Yeah.
Christian music, it was just not cool at all.
Wow.
So they did that, and then we had an article in there, full page spread. And David Frick took all three of us, came on tour with us for a weekend. He loved King's X, man. He played our music, and we talked about all kinds of stuff. And he was a big King's X fan, he said. And the three of us said, don't talk about Christianity, don't talk about our faith, don't talk about that in Rolling Stone, just don't say nothing. Just talk about everything else. So we made a pact, the three of us did. And what happened was David talked to Ty on a Friday, Jerry on a Saturday. He had me on Sunday. I didn't say a word, and he tried and tried and tried. We talked about everything else. Okay, turns the thing off. We go back to the hotel room. Says, "Hey man, want to hang out for the evening, have a few drinks and talk and just." So I said, "Well, sure." So we sat down at the bar. We were talking. No tape, no nothing. So he says, "Off the record. So, tell me about your Christian upbringing and all that kind of stuff." So I told him.
Wow.
And the last thing I said to her is my grandma wanted me to be a preacher, but I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to go out there and just play my music. And he took that and turned it into the whole article. They wanted me to be a preacher. And I remember, I mean, the boys, Jerry never said much. Ty really, really, really just lost it, and rightfully so. And again, the reason I say that is to show you how naive I was.
Wow.
Ty said to me, "Don't you know you're always on when you're around those people?"
Yeah.
Huh? And that's who I was to the point where when King's X wrote a book, and even I even have a book, and I just had a lot of people talk about encounters and things, a lot of my friends and things that we did, because I figured who knows people better than friends who have lived with me and hung with me for years.
Sure.
And what I learned from reading all that was that I really, really am and was severely naive, and people looked out for me. They
Wow.
looked out for me to the point of life-saving things where I could have been dead, and they just got me away because being black in a all-white place in the South, and just, I mean, I could tell you, I read story after story, which blew my mind. I didn't realize. And the other thing that I learned about myself is I know I have night terror dreams and I scream and yell in the middle of the night. It's just this thing that a lot of people have.
Sure.
Didn't realize I had them so much because every one of my friends will tell you if I've ever stayed at their place, will tell you they've heard me scream and yell and it's freaked them out at least once.
Wow.
So I go, wow. Then I didn't realize that happens too. But it's just hereditary. I think my mother had them and my grandma had them. I think she was doing that rather than praying. And over my head, I'd say she was praying. But I think she was having a night terror because I didn't know what she was saying. But I just heard her saying something, you know.
Wow.
Who knows? So many things. So many things.
Wow. This is why it's so fascinating to talk to you because, I mean, it seems to me like you've had such a unique, singular experience with just not only the Christian piece and the perception as a Christian band in the beginning to suddenly that's not the case, and then you take a hit from it, career-wise, which I think is absurd. But also, when you talk about naivety, I think it is dangerous to be an artist and be naive for sure, but
Yeah.
that's also part of the reason why I think people love you because like you are such a good person and you're such an empathetic person. And, you know, certainly for me, if I can only really speak from my own experience, but I've only met a handful of people that I walked away from and thought like, that is a genuinely like great human being. And you are one of them. And
Thank you.
of course, man. And so it's confusing to me that like all the things that someone would need to be beloved by a community, say in entertainment, are all the skills that actually hurt you as you're in entertainment. It's a confusing, confounding thing. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, it's true because feeling alone, feeling like you don't fit in, feeling like nobody cares is the first thing you feel when you became a rock star
Yeah.
because that's what's thrown at you. You know, and all of a sudden you're told what to do and how to look and what looks right and what looks wrong and this will work and this won't work and you know, and all of a sudden you're questioning yourself and all of a sudden you're finding flaws and you're sized up and they're taking pictures of you and then they're photoshopping you.
Yeah.
And then you see yourself in front of a magazine and somebody says, "Oh wow, he's smiling. Why doesn't he get his teeth fixed? He's a rock star." And then all of a sudden
Right.
you won't smile. I mean, dude, I got to tell you, Kerrang! Magazine, second time we were on the front. Well, King's X been on the front cover of Kerrang! About 5 times, but once I was on the front cover, which is an honor. But on the other hand, it was before I got my teeth fixed, and they were pretty fucked up. And they took a picture of me with my jacket, my hair. I'm looking like a rock star with like this.
Right.
And my teeth were all over the place. And that was on the front cover of Kerrang! Magazine. And I got off the plane and walked through the airport, Heathcote or whatever the name is, airport, and saw a display of a whole rack of Kerrang! Magazines with me smiling with my teeth. It fucked my mind up. And that's the thing is if you're not secure in who you are, oh man, that stuff's gonna get to you.
Yes.
You know? I mean, my cousins used to say I looked like Ichabod Crane when I was a little kid.
Wow.
And when I see myself walking down the hallway and there's a camera behind me and the three of us are walking to the stage or whatever, I see Ichabod Crane. These long arms down to my knees and this long skinny body. And then, you know, I'll take a picture sometimes, you know, I'm a show off like everybody else. I'm going, I'm 70 years old. I'm not too bad, you know, so I'll take a picture, show my abs and shit. I've been working hard. And everybody go, whoa, 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 whoa. And they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I go, oh, Douglas, come on. You're waiting. Somebody's going to say something. So throw that boy a hamburger. And all of a sudden I goes, oh. And then I look at myself and laugh and go, because I know better now. And I just laugh and go, yeah. I said, but I bet he don't work as hard as I do and he don't look like this. So it's fine. You know, and I go, yeah. And then I think, yeah, you know, if I saw me, I think I was anorexic too. Because, you know, I'm pretty skinny. But I'm not anorexic. But I go, you know, if I was on the outside looking at me, I go, yeah, maybe he's got a problem. You know, so, you know, and that's the thing about trying to understand instead of being defensive. You know, a lot of things have been said about me that other people have really had a hard time with, and I'll go, but no, it was true. You know, one guy said, "Man, I liked all King's X records, but Manic Moonlight, man, that record didn't, you know, it didn't sound like they really worked real hard on it." And people just freaking out, and I'm going, "Well, we didn't. We were kind of lost when we made that record, and we didn't. We just made that record because we needed to pay our rent."
Right.
And we went in there and tried to do the best we could. I go, we didn't shit it out,
Right.
but we went in to make a record to get paid because we were desperate and we needed it.
Yeah.
And there's some songs on there that I think, because of it, came out great. Like Believe. That's one of my favorite King's X songs. And The Other Side, my brother had told me he had AIDS and he was dying, and that was 15 years ago, and he passed away about 5 years ago. And so I Will See You on the Other Side. So there was a lot of emotion in those records, but yeah, I can say like Skeptical Wind. You know, it's like we just made that shit up and threw it on there and laughed about it and had fun. And the song is 10 minutes, and I said, man, we should make it 3. He goes, no, just let it run. So we just kept jamming. I said, you're going to put a lead on it? He goes, no, maybe people want to dance to it. And so, you know, I mean, we're having fun trying to get through the hardship of, you know, the time of year when everyone was broke, you know. So, truth, you know. But then one time somebody said, you know, if I could be blunt, our first KXM video, Rescue Me, you know, I really loved that riff because it was like a fucked up Led Zeppelin Meshuggah riff. And
Yeah.
it jumped the beat a little bit, and I was going, yeah, I'm figuring these, you know, I just always want to make up a really twisted riff, and just that's always in my mind. So I was going, yeah, this is rocking. And the song was about, and I thought, well, I could sing about never falling in love and never having anybody. You know, I was feeling kind of sad, and you know, I've never had a relationship. I learned psychologically, I just pushed everybody away. It's my fault. But at the time, I didn't know any better. I thought there was something wrong with me. But anyway, so I was singing this song, and I'm reading all the reviews of the video on YouTube, which never read your reviews. Come on, don't. Oh, they were great, great, great. Oh, Doug, Doug, Doug. And then all of a sudden, this one guy says, well, if Doug would stop getting his ass fucked and got a good woman, maybe he would have someone.
Oh my God.
And I went,
Wow.
and I've never forgot it. And it always makes me remember that there's a whole lot of haters out there, and they don't matter. And when that happened, I'm numb to it now. And it's okay, because I look around at all the shitty things people say about each other, and it's like, hey, it don't matter no more. I mean, think about Trump.
Yeah.
The things that if I was him, and the things that people have said about me, whew. I mean, just all the things. You mean down the list of people, that scandals and things that people say about him in the media. Right. It's just, so I go, you know, you just got to get thick, and you got to know who you are, and have good friends, you know, that you can trust.
One of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast is because there's so many things in the entertainment industry that I wish my 16-year-old self had known.
Yeah.
Just like I would have told myself, the industry is not about art. I would have tried to drive that point home. Like, once you enter the music industry, you are selling everything but music. You are selling your image. You are selling who you come across as in interviews, your persona. You're selling everything but music, right? Or at least in the contemporary like music model, where, you know, you do some gigs, you put out an EP or an album, and then you maybe get signed, and this kind of traditional path, you know. But I wish I had told myself so many things like that. And, you know, I'm wondering what your thoughts on are. What would you tell your 16-year-old self to prep you for the entertainment industry?
Sad thing about it is that if I could come back and tell myself, I still wouldn't have believed him, and I still would have did what I did.
I see.
And that's who I was. You know, I was in my 20s. Now maybe as I got older, 30s, 40s, maybe I'd listen. But in my 20s, I remember I listened to no one,
Right.
and it didn't matter. I was going to do what I wanted to do, and they didn't understand. And I didn't have that vision. I didn't have anything, and I didn't care only but what I was going to do. Pretty self-centered. You know, it's like there's a lot of things I regret. Like I look at Iron Maiden, and they have album covers that are Iron Maiden. You always know that's an Iron Maiden cover. I wanted, and I go, why couldn't we have done that? That would have been so cool. My favorite bands always had this thing that you could go to, that you could market.
Yeah.
All the things that you could do to promote yourself, I was always impressed by, but I never thought I should do it.
Right.
And so, and then when someone says do it, I don't want to do it. That's why I just want to play music, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was that kid that thought that anything that you suggested I do, it was you're trying to control me, and I immediately resisted. I mean, even up to Dogman. I remember Dogman. We were doing I Pretend. Yeah, when I wrote that song, Pretend, and I remember when we recorded it, Brendan went in with a Mellotron and played the riff on it. It wasn't
Wow.
really loud, but it just beefed the song up and gave it kind of like a different kind of cool vibe. And Brendan said, "It'll be a hit if you put this on here. This is what it works on the radio." Me and Ty went, "No, we weren't even open."
Right.
I remember when I Don't Care Like I Used to on the Dogman record.
Love it.
When we went to listen to the mix, my bass sounded like Black Sabbath. Huge. It was badass. What do? Where's my high end? Where's the high end? What are you talking about? Put the high end back in. So he did. He said, well, I was looking for that Black Sabbath sound. No, that's not my tone. So, I look back and go, I wouldn't have listened even then. It's like, it's just, that's a part of our legacies, is our defiance,
Yeah.
to say we're going to do it our own way. And some of us land on our feet and the rest of us don't, and, that's why I always say that my career has been pretty lucky, because I've just kind of just ran through the field catching butterflies. And luckily there's enough people out there that would catch me when I'd fall and kick me in the ass and keep me going.
Yeah.
Um, and it really has been that way. I like a child in a playing ground that someone's got their eyes on. Even to this day, you know,
Wow.
I look at some of my friends and they still do that.
Wow.
But the point, because you had, what was the question again? Because I want to make a point. I got all around this circle there.
I think
You
it's just,
said
yeah, what would you tell your 16-year-old self to prep?
yes. Oh, and an analogy. One time, I was 20 years old, and I was on the road with this show group. It was a Christian show group, and we played high schools, and there was like 12 of us, and I sang in this like 8 of us, and we danced and did choreography, and we sang and did stuff. And I lasted 6 months because it was totally controlled, and I had to quit. But I remember the bass player. I told him, I says, I'm gonna figure myself out, man. I just gotta figure myself out. And he looked at me and said, "Don't be so quick." He said, "Because you might not like what you find."
Wow.
And I looked at him like, "Oh, whatever," you know. And I didn't like what I found,
Wow.
and I found that it took a good portion of my life to accept what I found.
Wow.
And now I finally accept it.
Yeah.
And it's been a long fucking journey. But again, I looked at him like, yeah, whatever. And that's why when I hang out when I hang out with youngins, 20 somethings, I call them youngins, I tell them stuff and I give them my wisdom. But I know that they'll remember it after they do what I told them not to do, and they understand.
Wow.
And they usually come back, not all of them, but some of them come back and go, yeah, you were right. And I go, yeah, but hey, we're here, and everything's great, isn't it? And you go, yep, it's a part of life, and you just got to look at it that way.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because, recently we were texting, and I texted you this song I had finished. And you're one of the first people ever that I had sent it to. And
Oh, wow.
I was really like your response, man, actually meant the world to me because at a very confusing time of, kind of just getting out of the situation on a business level in music, and not knowing like there's a pandemic going on. I mean, do I release music? Do I create music? Is there even a market for what I want to do? Like, should I even?
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. Keep going though.
But I mean, I just having all these thoughts like, oh man, is it even worth making this music and putting it out? How am I going to get a band? And I know what the headaches are, rehearsals and all this. Your response was so, it meant so much to me. It was so profound because it's not something I could argue with at all. Like for you to say, like, look, you're just starting and keep going and you will be fine. It's like, what am I supposed to say to that? Doug is the man and he's, you know what I mean?
I hope I didn't sound that cold.
No. It wasn't that cold. It's paraphrasing. Much more warm.
Okay.
Much more warm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it meant a lot, man. So
I love you, bro, and you're important. You're a good friend, and I watched your struggle. As I've watched so many people struggle, and I believe that as long as I know you, that I will tell you what I think and hopefully direct you in the right direction that you want to go. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, man. I mean, this conversation has been really, really inspiring. So thank you for your time again.
You're welcome.
Man, I love you, Doug. Thank you for doing this.
I love you too, bro.